YouTube, what is going on? PPS back here. It is past the prop week 6. We're coming at you guys for our props Q&A show. As you can see, we're joined by a few new faces in here we haven't seen in a while. First guest of the year for football, and we brought on two of them. Two guys on here are going to drop some bangers for us. Joined, I'm going to see if I can do it right, Vaughn. We got VMoney Sports joining us here, as well as Birdman. Vaughn, how you been?
I've been good, guys. Yeah, I've been real good, man. I've been traveling a lot, but NFL's been going great this season. College football's looking up these past few weeks. So, yeah, excited to get back to it with you guys. Hope everyone else is doing well.
Love it. Birdman, how's the NFL season been going for you?
Good, man. I think I'm sitting at like 43 and 30 plus like 14 units or so. I think actually probably up to like 15 after I had Jonathan Allen sack last night. Thought I was done when he got wiped out by a penalty, and then he got me another one on the last drive. So, and then I had Bates over, and he got hurt in warm up. So that's no fun. So that voided. But overall, pretty good, man. Can't complain. A little bit less props, I think, like player props than last year. There's a lot of money coming in. More money, I should say, than last year. So I think that is making them a bit sharper out of the gate. But I love bet. NFL is my favorite sport by far to bet. So, and watch.
Love it. Stu, Montreal football here as always. How was the game last night for you? How'd you feel? You got a W. Can't really feel too bad then, huh?
Yeah, it was an ugly game. We got the win. That's what matters. I still went 2-1 on my props, so there's another silver lining right there. But yeah, just a frustrating experience to be a Washington fan. I don't know if you saw the Rivera post game where he stormed off. I'm not sure who you're mad at, buddy. This was you. You started this whole thing. He got everyone riled up. I don't know what's really going on there. I was kind of a little bit in my heart hoping that we might lose and they'd fire Rivera because the play calling in that game was terrible. But either way, we move on. We have much better games. I mean, right? We don't have to be complaining about anything this week. We got Chiefs-Bills. That's pretty much the Super Bowl of the regular season so far. So I'm excited. Tons of great plays to go over today. It's going to be a good show.
Yeah, first time ever having double guests going out here too. So happy to see all you guys jumping in here. We got Jay, as always, popping in here. Our guy, Shrogi, talking about VMoney. Love to see it. He's already got a question for you, VMoney, in the chat. I don't know if you saw that already, but we'll get there. First play he wants you to weigh in on. We got a Steelers question already. It popped in here quick. I mean, you want to talk about that? I'm going to kick it to you because you got the read, huh?
Hey, whenever I got invited to the national championship game between Georgia and Alabama last year. If you guys remember Marco Piamonte, aka Marco Parlay, that dude won $1 million off the Georgia game. So I got to be there and sit with him at the game. And George Pickens, he was my big prop in that game, over 48 receiving yards, catches a 52-yard bomb. And what has he done with the Steelers so far? He's catching bombs, he's breaking tackles, and he's throwing cornerbacks to the ground when he's asked to block. Honestly, when I went to Steelers training camp, I was most impressed with George Pickens out of every single Steelers player out there. And with Kenny Pickett being the quarterback, that's only a positive for not only the game script for them playing behind. We were joking about throwing Kenny Pickett out there against the Bills, the Dolphins, the Eagles, all these teams that are absolutely destroy the Steelers. Well, George Pickens is cool with that because he's going to get the ball. So, I do love George Pickens' props for the next few weeks, and I love him in fantasy as well.
Yeah, no, it should be a good one there. I just picked up Warren, the little backup running back there. He's been doing pretty well. So
that was the second guy. Najee Harris didn't really practice much in training camp, so Warren got a lot of reps, and it was clear by day 2 he was way better than Anthony McFarland and Benny Snow. He just blew those guys out the win. So yeah, if you have dynasty leagues, you want Jaylen Warren.
People kept trying to get Pickens from me from dynasty. I'm like, I'm not trading him, man. I'm not trading him. Like, just not.
Yeah, and I know this one hurts a little bit, but I'll kick this to you, Stu. Why is this dude? He just murdered people last night on parlays, alt lines, yards, pretty much anything you could think of. I know Samuel was the most bet spot, and dude just dropped a touchdown. He was open on a few other plays that just bricked off his hands. I'll kick this to you because usually we're hyping up Curtis Samuel.
Yeah, that was brutal. I actually, even before that drive, I live bet him too. I bet over 3.5 catches. He already had one. I was feeling great. We were going to get 50 seconds to go down the field right there. Then obviously, like you said, drop the catch, drop the touchdown catch. It was kind of a dagger, right? When you put in that live bet, you're like, yeah, okay, this isn't going to win. But that's life. Hopefully he bounces back next week. Interestingly enough, too, just for future reference, a lot of these wide receiver screens have been going to Terry McLaurin recently over the last 2 weeks. It seems like those plays that were earlier in the season going to Samuel, they're now getting him involved. I even believe Terry McLaurin had a rush last week as opposed to Curtis Samuel, who didn't. So that's something to watch moving forward, is that it seems like they want to get the ball in Terry's hands more, which obviously makes common sense, but we're now finally seeing it kind of play out a little bit.
Yeah, it's something we probably expected week 1, but Curtis Samuel took all that stuff there. Again, guys, you guys know Friday is our Q&A show here. So if you have questions, we'll try and help you out. Drop them in the chat. We'll get to them as we get moving here. Joel, that will be Mr. Vaughn here momentarily. We'll be talking about some CFB. But first, we will put Birdman's 2-0 record on Pass the Prop on the line. He's got 2 plays. We'll start him off here with San Francisco 49ers here.
Yeah, so it's funny that those 2 picks came in the NBA playoffs, so we got a bit of a gap here. But yeah, I like George Kittle in this spot. It's his 3rd week back from injury, so he's getting in a little bit of a groove with Jimmy G. Obviously, the chemistry with Lance didn't even get a chance to build. He had a solid game last week, 5 for 47 on 6 targets in a game the Niners blew out the Panthers. Now he gets a defense allowing 6.8 receptions for 71 yards on average to tight ends on the season. They just allowed 43 yards to Cade Otton of the Bucks, 73 yards to Njoku the game before. The Falcons are 31st in sack percentage, so I don't expect them to need Kittle to chip on the edge. I just see them focusing on Kittle for him to get his first touchdown of the season as well. Not a bad prop. I think he gets 50+ in this matchup.
I love it. Stu, you got anything on Mr. Kittle there?
Yeah, Kittle's one of the more interesting guys of the week because there are a lot of pros and cons, right? You kind of mentioned like this might be his last week before he goes back on the offensive line, right? I mean, the biggest thing that I noticed with last week, the Carolina pass rush isn't that great, right? So they were actually using Kittle out in space. Now we get an even worse pass rush this week with the Falcons. I do think the 49ers are going to come out with a really, really run-heavy game plan. I mean, we're going to see them just absolutely run the ball. But if the Falcons can keep this close enough, then I think Kittle should get involved. And I actually like that touchdown look, too. I'm assuming you're getting around plus 200, a little bit better than that, right?
So yeah, something like that. I didn't bet it yet, but he's usually in that range because, if you look at his game log, it's like, oh, he had 112, and then he had 26, and then he had, yards-wise. And it's just like he'll score a touchdown with 25 yards, no problem. But yeah, I do like that look. And like I was talking about beforehand, weeks 4 to 6 is when these guys who haven't scored yet, they typically get their first touchdown. Mm-hmm. We're at that week 6 right here, and I think they're going to prioritize that a bit.
Yeah, I love this look. I love that you talked about him not needing to chip because that's where we've been talking about why we've been betting his unders. Yep. But this is a huge bounce back spot in my opinion too. I like that you talked about that. That's a huge thing to talk about with him having to do that in a lot of these games. Anything from you, Vaughn, or you want to head over to your play here?
I will say that our model loves Kittle this weekend too. They have this as his highest projected game over the past 3 weeks. They have him at 66.7 yards.
Damn.
5 receptions, 7 targets. So, yeah, and the Falcons are pesky. I had the Niners last week in 3 different ways. I was very confident. But this week, I'm not even touching this game. I mean, the Falcons, they're pesky. They're covering. They may be the worst 5-0 ATS team in NFL history, but they're still 5-0 ATS, and this spreads within a touchdown. So I do approve of George Kittle here in this spot.
Love to hear it. And we're going to head to some college football here. We'll kick it to you, Vaughn. A spot here in the ACC, bring it to you.
Yeah, I love this one. Now, Duke versus North Carolina, not quite the basketball matchup here, but honestly, we could get a football type of score in this game. I mean, both these defenses suck flat out. There's no nice way of saying it, but you look at who Duke has played and you look at their passing defense, every metric has them between 70th and 85th. And if you dig a little deeper who they played against, you guys know, you watched Temple last night. They played Temple. They played Northwestern. They can't throw. North Carolina, AT&T, they can't throw. Virginia, they can't throw with the new OC. Georgia Tech, they can't throw. And then Kansas. Kansas was the best passing team, and they put up 35 points on Duke, all right? Now we're talking about a UNC team that's 8th overall in the country with 500 yards per game. No Sam Howell, that's no problem. Drake May, honestly, has been a Heisman type of player this season. He's not going to win it because North Carolina can't, lift him up to get him in that conversation. But passing efficiency-wise, they're 5th. Duke's 73rd in that category defensively. And if you just look over past years, Duke has allowed North Carolina to score 38 and 56 the past 2 seasons. And I think North Carolina is even better offensively. So this actually was 36.5 points about a half hour ago. And it just moved up before we got on the show. And it's looking like it's going to go to 38.5, and 38 is another key number. So if you're with me, you got to go get it soon. So I like the Tar Heels. And they got the cool new helmets. And those look like over helmets. You guys know if a team puts on a swag uniform, they're about to score 40, North Carolina's going to do that.
I'm an Oregon fan, so I definitely know
what I'm talking about.
I love it. Yeah, dude. I love backing Mr. Downs and a lot of player props. We've been loving to back him. I think May's got 3 straight 300-yard games too. So this should be a fun little bloodbath here for UNC.
21 touchdowns to 3 interceptions this year. 1,900 yards, and he's a true freshman. The dude is an animal.
I love it.
And even better, they don't play defense too, like you mentioned before, right? It's going to be one of those games where it's just going to go back and forth and back and forth. So I'm hyped for this one. So many good games this week, but I think this will definitely be worth consideration, right? Even if you're just flipping over every once in a while to see a 45-yard touchdown pass.
Exactly.
Am I in the minority that I think that the Tar Heel logo is just not a great logo? Like, I think the helmets are really clean, but like if you put that like ram thing that they use, I feel like it would look so much better than just a foot with like a hole in the bottom. But I don't know. Maybe
I'm actually with you. Yeah, I'm with you there. I thought it was creative for sure, but I was like, I'll say the helmet itself is cool enough to still, think you're gonna score 40, but next year, yeah, you gotta get rid of the foot. The hill's a little too creative. You're doing a little too much.
I love it. We got a huge high-scoring college game, and now we're going to go to the highest-scoring NFL game of the week, kicking it to Stu's first play here. I love this spot for you.
Yeah, I'm going Devin Singletary over 20.5 receiving yards. Speaking of lines that moved on me, I wrote this up at 17.5, and it instantly jumped up a couple points right there, which is never fun to see, but it's obviously for good reason. And I still expected closer to 23, 24 as my projected line. So I'm definitely still willing to take it here. If you look at the box score, you look at the hit rates, you might be a little bit confused. Why are you playing a prop that he's only hit in 2 of 5 games? What are you thinking right here? If you look at the 2 games he hit it, they were their only 2 competitive games of the season. Every other game, they won by 30 points. Obviously, now we get the Chiefs here. This is expected to be, like I said before, kind of the regular season Super Bowl. I think this will definitely be a competitive game. And we're looking at those 2 competitive games. This is Singletary's backfield. He's a 3-down back. We saw 78 and 80% of snaps in those 2 games where they were competitive. So I expect Singletary to be out there. Additionally, one of the first things we talked about earlier in the year, I don't know if you remember this, Justin, but we were kind of talking about what impressed us the most with Josh Allen. And for me, it was his ability to check down, his ability to take those short intermediate throws rather than what we saw when he was younger, where I don't care, it's cover 2. I can throw it 80 yards. I'm throwing it 80 yards. He's actually kind of using restraint. He's being safer, and he's hitting these short yardage guys. And man, when Singletary got those catches, he was 40, 70 yards in those 2 games. He went way over. So I expect Allen to see tons of cover 2, pretty much exclusively cover 2. The name of the game here is going to be limiting big plays. Both of these teams are going to be doing their best to limit big plays. I think that gives us ample opportunities for Devin Singletary to get his job done in the passing game. So I love Singletary over 20.5 receiving yards right here.
Love it, love it, love it. Birdman, you got anything in this game? Who you rocking with in this one?
So I took an early spread, Bills -1.5. I think there's just a bit of a defensive edge here. And I absolutely love that, the public likes the Mahomes as an underdog thing. You gotta realize they're not playing the Raiders, or they wouldn't be an underdog, the Raiders, but they're not playing some, random team. They're playing the 2022 Bills, who are just a juggernaut. So, I don't have any props in this game yet, but I'm definitely tailing mono on that. I did see, I think, a couple people that like the rush plus receiving for him as well. which isn't a bad look because the Chiefs' run defense, before last week, everyone's like, yeah, they're third in the league in yards per rush. It's like, well, yeah, the Bucs ran it 6 times the week before. Like, what do you expect like from that? And then you saw the Raiders gash them up. So I think that was a bit of a overinflated perception, I guess, of the rush D. But I think this is a great look. I haven't really looked too much into that one yet, though.
Love it. I think, Vaughn, you're in the same page as Birdman there.
Yeah, I actually am. I would say some people are going to be very, divided on this game for Bills and Chiefs, but everyone's going to want a piece of the action. But most people right now, I mean, MGM, DraftKings, all these books are taking more money on the Chiefs simply because that stat is being floated around all over Twitter and all in everybody's articles that Patrick Mahomes has never been a home underdog. Patrick Mahomes, as an underdog overall, is either 7-0-1 ATS or 6-1-1 ATS, depending on what line you got. So, yeah, while that's all, very tempting and it all looks and sounds great, why is the book making Patrick Mahomes an underdog? And like Birdman said, the Bills are a juggernaut, but there's one more angle that I want to throw out there. It's the revenge angle. And the revenge angle is a very real angle in sports betting. When a team knocks someone out of the playoffs and that team felt very confident because they beat them earlier in the season in their own crib, which the Bills beat Kansas City and Arrowhead 38-20 last year. They lost in the playoffs, then turned around and led up 38 to the Chiefs. So the Bills remember all of that. The Chiefs remember all of that. And I agree with Birdman. I think the Bills have a slight defensive edge. The Raiders should not have lost that game. The fact that the Chiefs did win that game makes me even more excited to go bet the Bills on this spot.
Love it. Love it. Going from the top total on the slate, number 2, a game that I don't think ahead of the season we were going to think. We're going back to go Geno, baby. Going right back to him. This will be my 4th time betting on Geno Smith this year. This man is a wagon. I don't care. I put my neck on the line for this man way too many times, and he's just been loving it. He's been just giving me this money. I love it, and we're going up against this Arizona team here. I know Stu talked about DK Metcalf in our DFS show as his favorite top guy there. If you look at Pro Football Focus rankings this week in matchup advantage, number 5, DK Metcalf. Number 6, Tyler Lockett. Right? They're both right there. Arizona cannot stop the pass, but they are a top 12 run defense in the league, which I was very, very surprised to see. So we have Kenneth Walker now in his first career start. Their backup running back is now going to be DJ Dallas, who has 23 receptions in the last 2 years and 33 carries. So if we're going to get a lot more passes, dump downs, I think this is going to be very nice for him. Get some yards after the catch. Also, I do really like that he's hit this in his last 3. He only threw 25 attempts last week and still hit this number. That is unreal efficiency. Obviously, you have DK Metcalf down the side. 38-yard plus longest completion in his last 3 outings as well. This dude is efficient, 75% completion rate. Man, there's just everywhere you go, Geno's pretty much got the edge in this Arizona matchup, at least on this side of the football. I just don't think they're going to be able to give Kenneth Walker that bell cow role here. I don't see him getting 20-plus carries in this game, right? I think they're going to have to spread it out. I think we're going to see Geno unleashed here a little bit, maybe get that 40 attempts. He's attempted 40 passes once this year, and that was against the Falcons where he dropped 325 with another rushing touchdown in there too. I love me some Go Geno, baby. Anybody else? You guys been riding this Geno train with me this year?
I haven't bet a single Geno prop, but I have been all about the Seahawks. I think I bet them like almost every game. I was on Penny a few times, I think against the Lions. But yeah, I'm going to tell this one as well. I did take the Seahawks at 3 a little earlier in the week, but I'm also a huge fader of the Cardinals. My first future bet of the year was under 8.5 wins at like plus 107. And like, I just don't think that they're good. And, I think you see that bias because they had a good record last year and they were one of the luckiest teams in all of football last year, which helped them get that record. And their defense just got significantly worse going into the season. Like you said, I think it matches up perfectly. The one thing that worries me just in general is like divisional unders, I think have been pretty profitable, but you can rack up passing yards and just not be efficient in the red zone. So, there's a lot of, ways that can still hit and it be as not a low scoring game. The total is still like 50.5, but a 27-23 game can still mean 275 plus passing yards.
Yeah, and I mean too. First of all, I love Goat Geno as the title now. I like that addition. But I know Birdman. I don't know if you or Vaughn know. I was making fun of him earlier this season. I mean, he was really on Geno when his yards were like under 200 earlier this season, and I was in here laughing, joking. Yeah, right. And wow, I've been wrong. I mean, Geno Smith is legitimately like in almost every advanced stat you look at. It's been one of the best quarterbacks in the league this year, and now he gets an Arizona defense that is bottom 5 in explosive pass defense so far this season. They just can't stop anyone. I actually gave them the benefit of the doubt. I was thinking maybe last week they've got some corners healthy. You know, it may be time they start turning it around a little bit, and that did not happen. Obviously, the Eagles were playing just fine out there. So I definitely like this spot, and I'm gonna have to trust Geno to keep it moving because he's been a wagon for this show so far this year.
When you get in the jersey.
Yeah, someone said that in the chat.
In here.
Yeah, you got to get a jersey on the wall, especially if he cashes again. Let's see. I'm 4-0 on Seahawks plays this year, so I've loved everything about the Seahawks. Like, they've been nitty, they've been gritty. They don't need Russell Wilson. I love it. And I will say Birdman may said a stat about divisional unders. They're 20-8 to the under this year, so 71% hit rate when divisional opponents meet. There's 4 of them this week. The Cardinals and Seahawks are one. I think that one, though, 2 terrible defenses. I could see that one actually going over the total. The other ones, I have an under in each of the games in some way, so I'll just share them real quick. But Jags and Colts is a divisional under this week. That total's 42. I like the under in that. Cowboys, Eagles, Sunday Night Football on NBC. That total's 42. I like the under in that. And then you got Broncos, Chargers, over under 45.5. Broncos team total 20.5. I bet the under on that. Russell Wilson. So divisional unders are usually the way to go, but Cardinals, Seahawks, I think there'll be a lot of points scored. So I like this prop.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys saw my quote tweet on, I think it was NBC. I saw you guys had the tweet of Pete Carroll saying Drew Lock's on the heels. I'm about to throw an alternate line of plus 400 here for Geno to throw for 400 yards because that man's about to throw it in his face. That's so disrespectful.
Yeah, if they move on to Drew Lock, I mean, they're obviously tanking. I mean, there's no reason for Drew Lock to even sniff the field this season.
They're winning too many games. Put in Lock.
Yeah, literally.
Love it. We got Jay in here talking about your Oregon Ducks. I believe he's writing about Mr. Bo Nix. I don't know about that. I really want Spencer Sanders. I am on him pretty heavily with like a 45-1 Heisman little sprinkle there. So.
They can win the Big 12.
Bo's fun, but he ain't winning Heisman.
We have a couple questions in here talking about Nick Chubb. Obviously, he's one of my favorite guys to back. Anybody have a thought? We've been hearing in the chat here, we got 18.5 longest rush and over 89.5 rushing yards. If you guys had to pick one of the two, which one would you lean to? I'll kick it to you here first, Vaughn.
Nick Chubb, like he said, the wagon. That prop has been insane all season long. Myself and Prop Bomb were talking about that prop one night, and we were like, should we take the under 20.5 on Nick Chubb's longest rushing prop? Because that's a lot. And we couldn't even convince ourselves to take it. And in the second quarter, he had a 26-yard run. So we were like, you know what? That's a prop. It's either you're playing the over or you're completely passing. So I support Nick Chubb every week, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, for me, that was my first bet of the week last week. Chubb at 17.5. And I also took his rushing yards, but yeah, I mean, I like it. I mean, the Patriots, obviously a bit of a better defense. But I still like him. I mean, they're going to run the ball. I'd imagine that game, could be a bit of an under, but like the total's kind of gone up, I believe, at least a little bit. But you can't go wrong with Chubb. He's going to get the touches. No matter what the game script is either, he tends to just get them. I guess I would lean the longest rush. Think he could get a 20-yard rush, and then, who knows if he gets to the 90 yards. I know that they just have Clowney who got ruled out. Denzel Ward got ruled out. Not that means that they're going to be trailing or losing, but, if they are, I would imagine that the longest rush has a better chance of hitting than the 90 yards, but I like them both.
Love it. I know we talked about, I think this was you, Birdman. We got to bring up of Rachaad White.
That's a jump.
That's a big jump up. I know you were talking about it a little bit earlier in the week. It was obviously a little bit lower than that. Do you have a thought here on 13.5 now?
It was 10.5 last night, and I went to the Rush Plus receiving instead. I do like it. I mean, I think we've seen his snap count go up over the past couple weeks. He had 24 snaps 2 weeks ago, 31 last week. His touches went up. A lot of his combo yardage has been just receiving. But you have an 8-point spread against the Steelers team who has been worse against the pass, just yards per completion wise, as opposed to yards per rush. But and I went for the combo just because I think he's just going to be more involved. I do like the receiving yards. I just, I wanted to incorporate the rushing a little bit because I think if it is a blowout or it is a bit of a margin there, they're going to want to, limit Fournette's carries a bit, get him involved. But I do like the receiving. If the rushing didn't jump too high, like if it's still under 20.5, I probably would lean that. Just because, I think there's the game script. Just, I don't know, if you're looking at percentage chance of what could happen, I think there's a better chance that the game script gets out of control more than he gets a bunch of passes. But he can hit this in one catch. So,
Yeah.
I do like any part of Rachaad White I'm trying to buy in on this week.
Yeah, I was pretty excited this season going into the Steelers year with the linebackers that they had, especially how quick they were, agile, and they can guard running backs, in the angle routes out the flat. But I've been wrong. They haven't been able to guard really any running backs, and that was evident week 1 against Joe Mixon. And, I love Rachaad White too. He's a great dynasty option to have. And right now, the Bucs, while they're not covering spreads, they have the Steelers and Panthers on back-to-back road games. They're going to want to win those games, and coming out of that break, they have the Ravens and the Rams. So I don't think Leonard Fournette's going to be super involved against the Steelers and Panthers, way more involved against the Ravens and Rams. So I do like Rachaad White these next 2 weeks.
Yeah, and I'll just say one more thing too. I'll give a little bit more of a negative opinion right here. I do understand it. Tom Brady is the check down god. Anytime there's an edge rusher on the outside that he thinks is going to get near him, he's check down automatic. And obviously, like you mentioned, the increased route and snap percentage has been good these last 2 weeks. It's just I don't like necessarily betting on blowouts to happen, right? Because you kind of need it, right? Leonard Fournette has been one of the better running backs in football this season, even though all the production hasn't come on the ground. A lot of it's been through the air so far. I'm more like targeting backups on teams where the starter's starting to be way less efficient. Like somebody I'm looking kind of close at this week is I'm looking at Samaje Perine over 7.5 receiving yards. And that's because Joe Mixon has been, on paper, one of the worst running backs in football this season. And you got to think, how much longer can the Bengals kind of allow this? When I more look at the Bucs, I think Leonard Fournette's job is pretty safe. But Vaughn actually did bring up a very good point at the end about the schedule is not too tough, right? You're getting 2 back-to-back kind of cupcake games. So in that situation, I actually could see his snap share increase even more this week. So a little bit of a tough one for me.
I'll just add, what you said about Perine could also potentially apply to Jaylen Warren in this one.
Yep.
Just a little bit there. I haven't, really dove into, his lines in particular, but it's not like Najee Harris has been too efficient. So, could easily happen.
For sure. Now I'm just going to grab this one here. No, I know he's a Packer. I'll talk about my Packers here a little bit. It all depends on Christian Watson for me. Once you saw him go out last week, his routes got a little bit deeper. Obviously, Cobb's not usually a deep threat. But once Watson went out last week after his little end around, he said his hammy was feeling it again. He did his practice, whatever. If he plays, I'd probably be very neutral on this. But if he doesn't, I'd like this over if Watson is going to sit here because we definitely saw Cobb's route tree get a little bit longer. And obviously he's got the trust of Aaron Rodgers too. So it kind of just depends on Christian Watson for me if I'm going to back this spot. If he's out, I'll probably be back in this one.
I think Cobb scores.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to get in there real quick, too, and say if Watson receptions is 1.5 again, I think I might play it. I almost played it last week, and I ended up pulling the trigger. This guy, as we've talked about a couple times on the show, he can't actually catch yet, which is an unfortunate skill for a wide receiver. Since he can't catch, more than half of his targets are just screens so far. They're like, let's just get this guy the ball in his hands and let him do something. He's big and fast. So if that receptions drops and he does play, I do kind of like that 1.5 is a little bit of a sneaky play.
Dude, how many of his plays are just literally the touch pass in front of him? That's literally like 90% of his receptions this year is Rodgers gets it and tosses it. And it counts for a reception, which is still baffling to me. But, hey, it counts. It counts all the same.
I think Cobb gets his first touchdown this week at home. The same logic I was saying. I mean, if Watson's out, I definitely like it even more. He was like plus 250 on I think bet 365 or something. It's a good prop to watch out for. I'm trying to target any of the guys who haven't scored this week who actually play meaningful minutes or meaningful snap counts and stuff like that.
Randall Cobb has one career game against the Jets, and he scored 2 touchdowns. I love it.
Love it.
I didn't even know that. That's great to know.
Tail or Fade by Pickett is coming up next. And again, we find our way talking about the Pittsburgh Steelers. They find their way into everything here. And the Tail or Fade is Mike Evans over 64.5 receiving yards. Vaughn, it's another Steelers question again. Where are we going here? Are we going over? Are we going under?
I'm assuming the public's all over his over, correct?
Yes. Yep. That is the most bet spot of the week.
Yeah. I see the over now on the screen. But I think I'd be okay with betting the under. This is a position where I'd be more looking at the longest reception over for Mike Evans. Mike Evans could literally end this game with 3 or 4 receptions, and it's because they don't need to throw him the ball. They could be working a lot of other guys into the fold. Whether or not Chris Godwin's of the world plays, Julio Jones and all these type of guys, they have plenty of options. And we just talked about Rashad White, and they have plethora of running backs too. So 24.5 longest reception, I'd feel more comfortable with that. And I will say that Mike Evans, our player prop model, likes him to score a touchdown. They have him over 1 touchdown today or on Sunday. They have him at 91.6 yards. And I'll say this, while I do love our model, when we have a guy 30, 40 yards over top of his projection, that's a running back or receiver, that is a trap line every time. They usually don't work out, I've noticed. And if I say I've noticed because I've bet them. So immediately when I see a guy that's supposed to get 120 yards and his prop line 67.5 or something crazy like that, I'm not falling for that bait. So I would fade Mike Evans.
Yeah, and I want to say, too, I think that's actually a good point. I think a lot of the projections are obviously great, but sometimes they don't account for just the blowout factor, right? Like if this was a regular game, Evans probably would get there just based on all the metrics, right? But due to the fact that they could easily kind of pull ahead early and just kind of turn everything upside down, lean on the run game, then it makes it more or less likely, especially, too, I think the stats might be skewed, right? Because the Bills just don't run. Like they were like, nope, we're just gonna keep going. Like let's just like there's no reason for them to run. And I think that kind of skews how maybe the perception is when you're up 25 points. Like if they're up 25 points, I don't think Tom Brady's gonna be out there chucking deep balls to Mike Evans like Josh Allen was to Gabe Davis last week. So I kind of do agree with you. I think this is a very fair line, but for me, I'll probably fade the public on this one as well.
Yeah, I will say the Bucks too. They were leading 21-0 to the Falcons. Falcons didn't even have 150 total yards entering the fourth quarter before they made their little comeback to cover. And if that's anything to the Bucks now going on the road, they're not going to want that to happen again against a rookie quarterback. So I definitely think they take care of business early and then, try and hold on the fourth.
I'll take the under. I was on Godwin over last week. I think his prop's like 7 or 8 yards higher this week. But another guy, he hasn't scored yet. He was out for a little bit. I think Brady knows, all right, we got to get comfortable in the offense, get everyone back on track. They want the offense on all cylinders. I think you get Godwin over the middle of the field, White, Fournette, Gage. I guess if Julio plays, and then watch Mike Evans has like 2 13-yard touchdowns. And you're like, okay, he finished with like 4 catches for 52 yards and 2 touchdowns. It wouldn't really be that surprising. So, I like to fade the public anyway when I can.
Yeah, no, I wasn't. I was coming in here expecting I'd be a little bit different on the under, and now I like the under too. So full sweep across the board on the under here, fading the public. Hey, we're just showing out for that Pittsburgh Steelers defense. That's what we're just hyping up here. So Hopefully the Steelers can, I guess for this prop, hopefully get blown out so Mike Evans doesn't get the catches. So
tank for CJ Stroud.
Yeah, dude, Stroud looks so nice, dude. I like Ohio State, man. They just killed my Badgers, and it's just like now I just have to cheer for them to just win the whole damn thing at this point.
They might.
All righty, we'll get to the rest of the questions here after play number 2's come out. Again, we're going to start out with you, Birdman. Going to a guy who's been a fan of the show. We love this man. I love to see that you're on Trevor as well.
Yeah, I bet him. I want to say maybe it was maybe it was last time they played the Colts, but I haven't had success on Lawrence rushing yards yet. But I like this. In his 3 games against the Colts, he has 33, 17, and 11 rushing yards. The most recent game was this season. He had 3 rushes for 11 yards in the 24-0 Jags blowout. The Colts have been solid against the run this year, but in their last 3 games, they allowed Russell Wilson to have 4 carries for 22 yards, Tannehill 5 for 9, Mahomes 4 for 26. Tannehill didn't hit 12 yards, but it's inspiring seeing 5 rush attempts. I think if Lawrence gets to 5 rush attempts, he definitely hits this. He's coming off his best rushing game of the season where he had 4 for 29. First time he had 4+ carries since last year. I think we see him use his legs a bit more in this close divisional game. The Colts are allowing 3.8 carries for 14.4 rush yards per game to quarterbacks. I expect him to at least hit that average in this game. And I don't know if this helps or hurts it, but Shaq Leonard is out with a concussion nose back. So, I think when it's one of those things where I do like it if he's actually in. More pressure, more reason to run, but at the same time, we saw the past couple of weeks, the 3 weeks that I named, like he hasn't played, and we've still seen guys less athletic than Trevor Lawrence, hit this. So I think it's a bit low. I think it's just he hasn't hit it really, so it's understandable except for last week. But I think he gets to the 14-15 mark here.
Love it. Stu, you got anything on Mr. Lawrence here?
Yeah, no, I like this one right here. I think it makes a lot of sense, too, with the way that the Colts approach their defensive scheme, right? They're a team that runs more cover 2 zone than almost any other team in the NFL. They're sitting those safeties back. They're trying to stop explosive plays. And what happens when you do that is you open up those short intermediate running lanes, right? Those nice 6-7 yard runs. Now combine that with the fact that this is a close divisional game, like you mentioned. So they're more likely. Lawrence is a great QB sneak guy. He's a big guy, athletic, fast. I could see him getting a nice goal line run, a nice 3rd and 1 run. Just those little things kind of add up for a guy like Lawrence. So he also has some decent design runs too. I mean, they haven't necessarily come to fruition as much, but they've been using him on more design runs than you kind of expect for a more traditional pocket passer. So I like this one. I think Lawrence hopefully has a good game. This Jaguars offense needs to spruce up a little bit. It's been very rough these last 2 weeks.
Yeah, I'd like to see them get more involved with some RPOs with ETN and James Robinson. I think that goes a long way for them. But like I said, I'm on the under 42 in that game just because the under is consistently hit between the two. I think Trevor Lawrence is definitely going to have to be creative in some sort. They're not going to be able to just drop back and pass all day on that Colts defense. So I like this prop too.
Yeah, he's sneaky fast, man. Like when you see him run, it does not look like he's moving very fast, but he's like pulling away from these linebackers. It's kind of crazy. So I definitely like Trevor Lawrence here. I'll be tailing you for sure here, Birdman. And we'll be heading to college, back to college for VMoney, play number 2. Let's get it.
We're going to hit the mid-majors here. We're talking about a game that's involving North Texas, but we're not betting on North Texas. So it does sadden my heart a little bit because that is one of my favorite teams in the entire country. But I've watched so much North Texas football, I've realized a few things about them. 1, their defense is terrible. 2, they never have a lead that's safe. I mean, this team could be up by 20 points. They're probably going to win by 7. All right, so I've noticed these 2 things about this team. And what I've also noticed is a trend that works very well in this game. So for some reason, in the last 5 years, the under is 4-1, okay? But when they go to North Texas, the over is 4-1 in the last 5 times in North Texas. So when these teams go to North Texas, for some reason, there's a shootout. Now, when you look at the numbers, the scores have been 73, 56, 69, 63, and 65 points. This year, their defense is ranked 102nd and 121st in total defense. Literally 2 of the 30 worst defenses in the entire country. And then it gets better. My North Texas team, I bet them against Florida Atlantic. Florida Atlantic was 2-14 in their last 16 road games. Florida Atlantic went into North Texas and scored 28 points. The week after, Texas Southern scored 27 points. And then there was also SMU, who scored 48 on North Texas, and UMV, who had 58. It's just like these teams do not play any defense at all. And Louisiana Tech has won all 5 meetings at North Texas. They're 7-point underdogs right now. And while I do like North Texas in this spot, I think Louisiana Tech's team total over 29.5 is the best bet in this game, because all 5 times they've gone there, they've had 29 or more in 4 of them, including 42 last year.
I think Vaughn's made a lot of people North Texas fans over this season and last season, right? I mean, you had that legendary run last year. I know I was tipping you on just hit after hit after hit. So if there's one person in the world that I have to call up to get a bet on North Texas, it's this one right here. So I'm trusting you 100% on telling this one. I love all those trends brought up. I love it. Locking it in.
Yeah, these guys, I'm telling you, they're automatic. And if you guys didn't know about them last year, they went on like a 6-0 ATS run, and they were underdogs like 5 times, and we just kept playing the money line too. They were a 14-point dog against an undefeated UTSA team that really wanted to win their conference championship. And North Texas says, not so fast, pulls a little dollar off the fishing pole string. So, yeah, I love this one. I think this is going to be a high-scoring game in general. Both teams should clear 30 points. And that's what BetMGM's odds are saying as well. So I'll take the road dog that wins consistently to go over 30 points.
Beautiful, beautiful. And we're going to put the ticker now down here for these last ones here. Heading to Stu's last play. I got to love it. I love this game environment.
Yeah, I think the game environment's a good place to start. Actually, we were giving all that love to Geno Smith earlier. These are 2 real bad defenses on both sides, right? I mean, the reason Geno Smith has kind of played so well is we came into the season knowing the Seahawks pass defense would be good. Would be bad. We just didn't know that the offense would actually be able to supplement it and create these high-scoring games. And guess what? The defense has been bad. Currently 31st in pass DVOA defense so far this season. Kyler Murray hasn't been great so far, but when you do look at the best coverage schemes, the situations he performs best in, it's against cover 3 and cover 6. This is a matchup the Seahawks use that at top 5 rate in the NFL so far this season. Another interesting too, a lot of people think of Hollywood Brown as exclusively a deep threat, right? I mean, we played into that a lot last year with that longest reception that we just kept going over and over again. His role has very much changed so far. This year, his ADOT is kind of at a career low, under 10 for the first time that I can remember in a long time. And he's just kind of catching the ball all over the place. Another thing, when you think of targets, right, who leads the league in targets this season? It's Cooper Kupp, right? That's pretty obvious. Did anyone expect Hollywood Brown would be second right here? I mean, we're talking about over guys like Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase. Hollywood Brown is being targeted at an extremely high level. He has another week before DeAndre Hopkins gets back. I don't know if that actually matters at all, but if I were a wide receiver, that's at least an extra pep in your step right there. You get to, go up a little bit harder for that contested catch, knowing you got a threat coming back next week. So Hollywood's absolutely being peppered with targets. These are 2 bad defenses. I think this game is going to have a ton of points scored, and I definitely think Hollywood Brown is going to be at the center of that.
Love it. Birdman, you got any thoughts on Hollywood Brown facing this awful defense?
Yeah, I mean, it also works out that Kyler just traditionally over his career has been much better on the road. The Cardinals as a team has been much better on the road. Not necessarily as a favorite, but they still play better on the road. And I don't think Call of Duty comes out till next week. The joke that just keeps on just giving you laughs because it's just too on point. But yeah, no, I like it. I mean, I did want to look at Rondell Moore in this game a bit, but I don't think it's not like they have a lot of guys to target. I'm not worried about AJ Green snacking all of the targets and stuff like that in this one. So I don't see necessarily how he goes under here. I think that's a great look, and I'm actually pretty excited to see what the line gets to next week when Hopkins does come back. See if they over adjust or what. Maybe they just give you a low Hopkins line or something like that. But I'm all on board. I'm definitely going to tail this one after the show.
Yeah. Sorry, I was going to say, Maddie beat me to the Xbox joke. I mean, I had one lined up. I was going to say he's better on the road. You can't take his Xbox with him. He's in the hotel. They got the TV. So good on you there. Sorry, I just want to get that in there. Very important stuff.
He's taking the Xbox with him in the hotel room. You better believe it. He's sneaking it in there however he can. I did look up the release date of Call of Duty. It's October 28th. So we're literally 2 weeks away. You know, Kyler Murray's alarm this morning when it went off at the top of his screen, it said 14 days away, Call of Duty release. But he might get it early. But they do have a road game at the Vikings 2 days after it's released. And if we know Kirk Cousins, that's going to be a ball game. So, yeah, I like that. But I like this prop too. Yeah, DeAndre Hopkins doesn't come back till next week. It's clearly Hollywood Brown's last chance to really go crazy until D-Hop takes over.
And I'll just add real quick is like, you know, I said I'm on the Seahawks. I like them in this game at the 3. But, I mean, this is like, you know, there's no game script in this one where it gets out of hand and they sit them or, you know, I can't imagine the Cardinals, you know, they've been a pretty good second half team. So even if they do get a deficit, it just every game script you can think of just plays into this prop.
Yeah, no, and you brought up Rondale Moore. He's just been destroying my first 4-week fantasy MVP and Mr. Greg Dortch. He's the guy who's losing all this stuff, not Hollywood Brown. Luckily, do that guy. Prayers up because I lost Eli Mitchell really early on in a 16-man, and we needed to fill it in. Thank God for Greg Dortch. That man came through the first 4 weeks of the season, and I didn't even know who the hell he was before that. So
I don't know why they play AJ Green over Dortch. Like, he can't be like that much better, you know, at this point of his career. Like, you watch AJ Green, he has like 3 catches for 27 yards. Like, what is he doing? At least Dortch has speed.
Yeah, dude, I don't know. I was so mad when he went down to 1 catch once Rondale got in there. But hey, they got their people. I guess they paid him and they had good high draft capital on Moore, so you know they're going to give him the chance there. But talk about high draft capital. We're going to talk about a 1.5. This is my biggest play of the week so far. And it is fading my own team. And I don't do it very often. I usually try not to fade my own team just so I'm cheering for one thing and not my actual hometown team. But I'm going Breece Hall, 83.5 rushing receiving. I was on it last week. It was only 69.5. The dude almost cleared 100 on both rushing and receiving. He's just so much more explosive than Michael Carter. We're seeing the opportunity share start shifting now a little bit more towards that Breece Hall side. He saw 40-plus snaps in the last 3 weeks. Obviously started out very slow because they're trying to obviously work him in there. But we look at Carter's snap share. First week, 50. Second week, 43. Third week, 38. Down to 31. And last week was only 25 snaps for Michael Carter. You're seeing Breece Hall take over this offense. And I think the Jets are going to have to run the football against the Packers. Because we've seen the Packers are averaging 3.5 sacks per game at home this year. Also, minus 25% pass block for the Jets, and they do have a 10% run block advantage in this one. That's really the only way I really see him moving the ball. Zach Wilson is going to be running for his life if he's going to be throwing the ball 35 times, and the defense gets to pin their ears back. I have a really hard time seeing Wilson have a huge day. And if he is pressured like that, we have seen the ability, obviously, for Mr. Hall here to catch those dump down passes and make something happen. Also looking at prior weeks, we just saw Saquon go for 106 total. They let 89 up to Stevenson, 86 to Harris in the same exact game, right? That's almost 200 total yards to the running backs. Obviously Fournette didn't get there because Tampa Bay just doesn't run the football. I think he only had like 10 carries in that game. But David Montgomery, again, 122 rushing yards against this defense. They're very good at rushing the passer. The run has really been their Achilles heel. But I do like how we're just seeing the natural progression of him taking over this backfield. Like I said, 6 and 7 carries in the first 2 weeks. Now we're starting to see these last two at 17 and 18 carries, right? We're starting to see it finally come through. And I don't see this Packers defense stopping the run at all. But if there is a negative game script, I do like having the receiving option there as well to get those dump offs. I love Breece Hall. He's super explosive, and I just don't see these Packers linebackers staying with him. He's been so good, and obviously last week would have been one of the few games, I think it would have been McCaffrey-esque to see the 100 yards receiving, 100 yards rushing in the same game, 3 rushing yards off of that. A 14-yard jump from last week. I still don't think it's high enough. Breece Hall is going to be my biggest play of the week. Have any of you guys been back in Breece Hall or anything in these Jets backfield spots?
I love Breece Hall. He was actually my first offensive rookie of the year, and I usually don't play guys under 10-1. It's just not by design necessarily. I just when you're playing early futures, you want to get ahead of odds, and usually if guys are in 9-1 like he was, I think when I took it, you're not really going to get too much better odds over the season. I would be curious what his receiving line is, but there isn't anything wrong with hedging your happiness. So, it's like he could turn up on your Packers and the Packers still win and you're excited. Hedging your happiness is honestly a pillar in gambling, in my opinion, especially if you play a lot of different sports. The Packers are 4.8 yards per rush allowed, 22nd in the league. And that's actually 5.8 at home. Now, I didn't really look into it. I was just looking at it right now. I don't know if that London game, classifies on team rankings for a home game because they were the home team. Mm-hmm. But even so, like you said, they played the Patriots at home. They played the Bears at home. And all of those guys just absolutely dominated them. So, the home atmosphere is still a real thing in Green Bay. But against the run, this defense is only so much you can do. I always do the receiving. I don't know how much it jumped. I guarantee you. Yeah, see, that's not really high enough of a jump for me. I might have to play that too. It was 16.5 last week. 19.5 just doesn't seem like enough of a jump. This like you said, the combo jumped 14 yards. I know the rushing probably went up, but if he's getting almost every touch, I don't know. I think I might play all of it. Put a half unit on all three props.
Yeah, I'll still give the same criticism before I go into why I love this play, because I really do. I'll give the same criticism about the receiving yards as I do every week, is that Zach Wilson, once again, has the worst short to behind the line of scrimmage passing I've actually ever seen from a quarterback that I can remember. The guy cannot hit these people right in front of him. That some of these throws on tape aren't even close. They're clear checkdowns. The pressure's getting to him. He's been terrible with pressure in his face, like you mentioned a little bit earlier. But that's obviously just affects his receiving yards. The good positive to that has actually the bots are back. You got to get this out of here. What do you call it? The positive has been his ADOT. His ADOT isn't low. I played Devin Singletary receiving earlier. His ADOT is 0.2. Breece Hall is up at either 6 or 8. I don't remember which one, but he's getting targeted as legitimate routes, which means we don't actually have to worry about Zach Wilson's absolutely terrible throws behind the line of scrimmage. But man, I love this Breece Hall play. In back-to-back weeks, the Packers have played two teams that have essentially emailed their coaching staff, hey, we're going to run the ball. Just so you know, we're going to run the ball every play. We have Bailey Zappi. We have Daniel Jones. Just so you know, Packers, we're going to run the ball. And it still works, right? It still ended up working. I think it's going to work again. And Breece Hall is trending in absolutely the right direction. So I love Breece Hall this week, 100% tailing.
So, Vaughn, as a Packers fan, you're not feeling very confident this week, even though the Packers are 12-0 ATS and on the money line following a money line loss. And, the Jets are the Jets. Everyone's, so excited about the New York Jets. I'm just do people know that they're still the New York Jets? Because they beat the Steelers, and my Steelers suck. The Dolphins had their backup quarterback get injured and threw Skylar Thompson in there, and he didn't know what he was doing. It's his first time NFL, and you're just thrown in there, and it's you're losing to the Jets, have at it. Two quarterbacks back-to-back weeks. So I really like the Packers. That's a good thing for Breece Hall props, in my opinion. But everyone is really high on the Jets this week, and I will never be that person, though, to be honest.
I'm typically in that same camp. Whenever the Jets do something good, you fade them, right? They beat the Steelers. So I was all right, I got the Dolphins. Granted, with Teddy, they maybe, I don't know, they just played out of their mind, but maybe they cover the 3 or 3.5, whatever it was. I'm typically there with you. Unfortunately, PPS, I'm not big on the Packers. I was faded them prior to the year. I got all types of Vikings division and stuff futures. I just don't think that they're that good. Just when stuff boils down, you got Aaron Rodgers. They have a good run game, but even so, A.J. Dillon, I like him a lot, but he's been pretty inefficient, per carry basis. It's all those things work out, but you have to somewhat adjust some of these trends right? Like everyone who uses the Belichick Brady trends for the Patriots, and you're like,
Yeah.
well, they don't have Tom Brady anymore.
Exactly.
Not that it's the same thing, because it is still Rodgers at home off of a loss. It's just one of those things where I'm like, the defense is going to have to step up, because they're part of it that hasn't looked good, and the offense didn't score a single second half point against the Giants.
That's bad.
But at the same time, it's they're a public dog. The line hasn't even moved to 7 in a lot of spots. It's still at that 7.5. You never like to see that. So, this is probably a double-digit win for the Packers. As much as I already jumped on the Jets, but
And the spread opened at 9.5 for the Packers, which was the look ahead, and that came down because everyone was so high on the Jets. But that's a great point you made, saying that it's 7.5 and it's staying there now because they want people to continue to bet the Jets, in my opinion. And there's only two things that really bother me, and I'll be quick about this, is that, of course, they're coming back from London. That's a new thing we're seeing this year, where those teams don't get bye weeks now. But we did see the Saints cover against the Seahawks, and we saw the Vikings push against the Bears. You got a 7, and they came back from London. And if you guys know, I used to work with Warren Sharp. If you follow him, he had a really good video, which is something that kind of scared me, to be honest. But the Jets have run the second most play action the past 2 weeks. The Packers are the worst defense in the NFL against play action. So it seems like the Jets are trying to prep themselves to kind of set themselves up for shots. And also with Breece Hall kind of playing more and more, it's been way more successful with them offensively because he's a threat to run the ball. And then whenever you play up on him, you can throw deep to a bunch of these young wideouts. So, it's been a completely different offense with Zach Wilson compared to Joe Flacco. I will say that.
Yeah, no, and I'll just kind of give you my last 2 cents here on the Packers here. And I think they're finally realizing that if you're playing a home game in Lambeau in like December and January, you can't play how they've been playing, which is having Rodgers throw the ball 40-plus times. If any team comes into Lambeau and it's snowing, now that you have to tackle A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones, you're not going to win. You're not, because they couldn't run the ball last year. They couldn't do what they're trying to do now, and that's why it was so frustrating to watch the second half. And now Rodgers is getting ripped up, which is good because he was changing all of those plays that were probably run plays at the line of scrimmage because everybody was on A.J. Dillon and Jones last week, which you should have been, right? That was the right way to go. But now everybody's bringing it up because Rodgers literally changed everything at the line of scrimmage. Should not have done it. Should have just ran the fucking football because that's the only thing that was working. Nothing in the passing game besides Randall Cobb was working. So Aaron Rodgers finally, I think, got a little bit more of like that humble pie that he kind of needed. And I think that we do see the points come for the Packers here, but I still think Hall finds his way. Either way, and we'll get to a few more questions here before we head to our touchdown parlay. 22-1, right? So it's gonna be a big one this week.
Let's go.
I will kick this. We'll do one per person here. Let's start out with you, Vaughn. We got our guy Paul in here asking about McCaffrey. Probably one of the toughest matchups you could possibly have, right? You're in a tough matchup here. What's your thoughts here? 38.5 receiving yards.
I would like to see. I'm looking it up right now to see if he has what his game log with PJ Walker is. The only problem is PJ Walker's played a couple games where he's had minimal snaps with them, so stats are kind of skewed here. But 38 receiving yards is
one last year, 10 catches for 60 yards.
10 catches.
That was their one combo.
Yeah, well, I mean, there you go for that. That's definitely a good number to be having there. I don't know. I'm not very confident backing receiving yards for player props, especially if I think they could be trailing. And in this spot with Carolina, there could be an emotional edge after getting rid of Matt Rule. No Baker Mayfield, which has been probably dragging them down. But at the same time, if you're not feeding Christian McCaffrey, you're not covering the 10 against the Rams, you're definitely not winning this game. So I don't know. I personally wouldn't want to play this one, to be honest with you guys. I don't know if you have a strong opinion.
Yeah, I just want to say I do like McCaffrey this week. I mean, PJ, when you look at his stats on paper as a starter, they have been some of the worst out of anyone in the NFL over the course of his whole career. That's not necessarily his fault. He's been with some pretty bad teams. His arm strength isn't great. I think he's just going to be a check down king right here. It's really, really, really hard to run against the Rams, right? With that kind of middle with Aaron Donald, obviously the biggest name in the league right there. I think there's just going to be a ton of check downs. So 4.5 receptions was something I was looking at. It's minus 155, so that kind of turned me away. I'm going to probably look at another way to attack that. But I just have a feeling it's going to be check down city, right? I don't think they're going to be able to move the ball against the Rams. And I think the Rams are finally going to put up some points and kind of like a bit of a, stop calling us bad. We're not that bad game. So we'll see what happens. But I think he should get the benefit of a lot of checkdowns.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I like DJ Moore in that game actually a bit. I didn't. It's not something I took because I have the same the same reservations about backing anybody on the Panthers right now. But he's just got peppered with targets in some of those games that he's played with PJ Walker. There was some public discourse about his lack of usage and lack of connection with Baker, and I think there was some crazy stat. I don't know the exact number, but he was in the top 3, I think, with like most inaccurate throws towards him, or most inaccurate targets, I'll say, or off targets, however the wording is. But yeah, I think it's not like the Rams secondary has been that great. So DJ Moore, I think it was like 53.5, 4.5 catches was actually only minus 105. Like you said, if it's not going to get a lot of yards downfield, might just get 5 slant routes, call it a day. So I'm leaning towards something with DJ Moore, but it's hard to back or it's hard to say no to CMC when he's just going to get a bunch of short yardage stuff.
Exactly. I love it. Yeah, no, I think the receiving yard is definitely the spot to go. And the last one I'm seeing here from one of our guys who are in here every single week, Jay, we appreciate you. Anybody want to take the reins on this one? Saquon, over 26.5 receiving yards. I kind of talked about this a little bit about how I like Daniel Jones a little bit more than usual, just in like the DFS punt option at like 5,200. But Saquon at 26.5 receiving yards, gets a ton of catches. Anybody want to take this one? You got any specific thoughts?
I can jump in. Sorry, if no one's into it. I mean, Saquon's been great to me this season. I do think it'll be interesting. It looks like, is Wandell going to play this week? Is it going to be his first start of the week?
I think he's on track to play, or he was, at least practicing.
Mm-hmm. And then Tony's an option too, right? I don't think he's going to play. Mr. Both by hamstrings hurt. That's a little tough for my fantasy teams, unfortunately. But I do think obviously more weapons does take away a little bit of his kind of receiving share. But just in general, it's another example of it. It's going to be kind of hard to run right up the middle against the Ravens, right? And they're finding a lot of creative ways to get Saquon the ball. I mean, 2 wild card snaps last week was always fun to see. I think he probably does go over, though. I think this should be a fairly competitive game, but they will probably be trailing in this one. And when they're trailing, Saquon just becomes the wide receiver 1 on the team. So I like the over.
One thing I'll add about the Ravens defense is, like, what's more likely, that they play how they played against the Bengals on primetime, a divisional matchup where their defense actually looked good, secondary held some, chasing some guys in check, or they get back to being one of the worst pass defenses in the league like they were the 4 weeks prior. I think you're probably going to see more of like that. The matchup, the Giants aren't really a pass team, but, you want to see a bad, or, I don't want to even call them a bad secondary because they do have some talent. It's just a matter of they haven't been playing well outside of that Sunday night game. So, it's not a bad secondary to target. I actually, we were talking about guys who haven't scored yet. I have my eyes a bit on Richie James to score if he ends up going, just because he hasn't scored, and he's a starting receiver. And I don't know off the top of my head like the participation, but pretty sure he's out there like every single route. So I'd rather take him as opposed to him or Saquon is really all they got. And I saw a crazy stat. It was like touches for the Giants. It was like Saquon at 113 or 119. And the person in second was like Richie James at 17 for like touches for the whole season. You're like, that's just absolutely insane. So I would lean the over on this just for that alone. Let's bank on Saquon just getting his normal usage rather than trying to buy low on somebody else on a bad passing offense.
For sure. Perfect. That is all of the questions I'm seeing in here. Obviously, you guys can see that our plays are all on the bottom right there on the ticker. But we'll go through a quick recap here and then get to our touchdown parlay for the week. I'll start off with you, Stu. We'll go through your 2 plays here, and then we'll go through all everybody else's here.
Sounds good. I started out with Devin Singletary over 20.5 receiving yards, minus 118 for 1 unit. Then we moved over to Marquise Hollywood Brown over 70.5 receiving yards, minus 110.
And let's get to Taylor fade there.
Yep, and then I will be fading Mike Evan under 64 receiving yards. I don't know what happened to Mike Evans. He might change his name. I'm not sure what the legal situation is, but I do not believe in Mike Evan this week.
Hey, I was happy that was my only typo. I mean, the only one I didn't type, I had to make sure I typed GOAT right for Geno. That's the only thing I was making sure I spelled right for sure. I'll kick it to you, Birdman, for your 2 here.
George Kittle over 42.5 receiving yards, minus 118. I believe that was on Bet Rivers, but I think this morning I saw minus 120 on MGM or DK, so odds are still all right. And Lawrence over 11.5 rushing yards. I think a few books had this minus 110. I took it on MGM. And I'm fading Mike Evan. I think you see a bit of Godwin and White in here. Get a bit of more usage, and I think you see Godwin kind of get back up to speed to what he was, last year.
Love it. Let's go over to you, VMoney.
All right. We're rocking with the Tobacco Road. Team total over North Carolina, 37.5 versus the Duke Blue Devils. Should see a basketball score in a football game. And then we're going to go to a team with even worse defense, Louisiana Tech and North Texas. We'll go with the Road Dogs, the Bulldogs, that is. Team total over 29.5. So I think both those teams can score 40-plus points in their matchup. And I, with everyone else, we will fade Mike Evan. And fun fact, whenever I was invited to be a Super Bowl member this year, I did not go to the game. I just got to do all the fun media stuff for the first week and act like I was going to go to the game. I stayed in the same hotel as Mike Evan, and this guy sat at the bar, didn't speak to the woman he was with for 45 minutes. He was on his phone the entire time, and he got up and said, "You ready?" And they both got up and left. And I said, "Man, I wish I was an NFL player." So I'll tell him in real life, but I'll fade him in betting. That's what we'll do here.
I love it. I'll be rolling with GOAT Geno over 266.5 passing yards. I believe that was Bet Rivers where I grabbed that one. And I'm fading my team. I'm fading against the Packers. I know it hurts, but 83.5 for Breece Hall at minus 115. And I won't even pull up the Mike Evan portion, so we don't have to see it anymore. But I will be fading that one as well. We're to the end of the show, guys. It is time for our touchdown parlay. It's pretty big odds here. We'll just go around in the order it is here and just bring up who you like this week. Starting with Josh Allen.
I'm rolling with Josh Allen to kick this one off. As you guys heard me say earlier, it's a revenge game narrative for him. He actually had tons of success on the ground against the Chiefs in those 2 matchups last year. In Arrowhead, he had 59 yards on 11 carries. He did score a touchdown on the ground. And then in the playoff game, he had 11 carries for 68 yards. So, they don't have much of a red zone running threat outside of Josh Allen. And, if the game has to be taken into account, he's going to put the ball in his hands and his hands only. Maybe Stephon Diggs, but more than likely his hands only. So I like Josh Allen as my favorite touchdown bet of that Chiefs and Bills game.
Chris Godwin, like I talked about throughout the show here, targeting someone who hasn't scored yet. The Steelers are 29th in the league, allowing 2.2 passing touchdowns per game. Brady was lighting it up last week. I expect Godwin to be involved here like he was last season. I think Brady's going to prioritize getting him that first touchdown. You're still getting plus money odds. The odds have dropped a bit. I think he was a little higher last week, but he's one of those guys with Brady as the quarterback. He gets the respect of the odds. Like you're not going to see him around plus 200 like ever. So, I like him to get his first one this week.
Love it. I'll be on Kelsey. I think it's like minus 115 to minus 120. I mean, how can you not go back to him? 4 touchdowns last week. Scored both games last year against the Bills. He scored in both of them. You guys know how heavy I am on him after my future. We did our future props, and he was my biggest one. And for him to lead the NFL right now, he is up by 2. So hopefully he continues to do it. 7 touchdowns so far this season. I expect to see another one here.
Yeah, no, I mean, these are obviously great ones. I'm going Lamar Jackson right here. I actually was going to go Josh Allen too, so I'm glad to see that Vaughn is on that. Yeah, that's just a great one. He's a beast down there. But Lamar Jackson just as well, right? I mean, I pretty much changing my philosophy over here. Like, rushing quarterbacks are just the way to go, especially you're constantly getting plus money. It feels like every week, just go like Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, and Lamar Jackson, and 2 of 3 get the job done right here. I do want to give a shout out to Durham Smythe for scoring his first touchdown of the season. I bet him every week before that. He did not score a touchdown. So I just want to shout out friend of the show, and I appreciate all the people that DM'd me to ask me if I bet on it. I did not. So maybe we go back to Durham Smythe again this week, because that's always fun.
Beautiful. Biggest one, obviously, of the year, 22-1. That would be an absolute banger to hit that one. And we are to the end of the show. We appreciate all you guys staying in here with us. Let's bring it to our guests here. Birdman, I'll start with you. Where can people find you? You got any shout outs for anyone? Let's see what you got here before we head on out.
Yeah, I mean, you know, you can find me on Twitter at halfbird, pretty self-explanatory. Had that at since like 2011 when I created my Twitter. And I don't know, I'll shout out props.cash. They're, easy to use research tool for anyone who doesn't, is getting into researching stats and stuff themselves. But no, I'll shout out. I do this every time on the show. I'll shout you guys out for having me on here. It's always good chopping it up. Got to get some FaceTime and chat up with Vaughn too. It's always good to talk football. I can talk football, basketball, whatever for hours. So good to do it. For people here who are able to watch.
Awesome. VMoney, you got anybody you want to shout out or anything you want to talk about before we head out?
Yeah, well, definitely shout out to you guys for putting on an awesome show for over an hour. All the viewers, everyone that was watching us live. Specifically, I want to shout out to Strogi in the chat section because he obviously is a Pennsylvania guy, Pittsburgh area native. Shout out IUP. That's where I went to college. Of course, I am an IUP legend, not to toot my own horn. But, yeah, Strogi knows what's up. So I appreciate you guys. All of my work is on NBC Sports Edge and Roto World. People still, if you don't know, Roto World's a thing. It's still a thing here. We did bring it back. So if you do that, there's an app and everything too. But as Birdman just said, NBA, it's back. So we all should be on the show together for sure. I just dropped my futures today. I'm super excited about it. So I just want to say go Bulls. That's all.
Yep. And obviously we appreciate both of you guys coming on. I'm wishing you luck today in your battle of the bets, Vaughn. I almost faced you, actually. I lost in an unaired version of Battle of the Bets yesterday. So I did not make it on to get you today, but hopefully we can square off pretty soon.
I went to bat for you last night about it because I went to retweet. I'm like, where is this episode at? They all drop at 4 p.m. And the guy was like, oh, the rain out, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, well, he's going to come back on, right? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, all right, he better because I'm going to throw a fit. But, yeah, I actually would like all three of you guys to come on Battle of the Bets at some point. I feel like you guys would all be awesome. And, it's great exposure as well. So, if you guys want to, definitely just shoot me a DM because, you can't beat me, but you can beat anybody else on the NBC team. I'll allow that. All right.
I love it.
Sounds good.
Definitely have to do that. But thank you guys all for coming on here. Appreciate you guys coming on, guests. Went very, very smoothly for our first time ever having 2 guests here. Obviously 8 plays out for you guys. So hopefully you're able to tail all of these. We're from college football to some low totals to some high totals in the NFL. So we're kind of all over the place this week. And I'm really, really excited for that touchdown spot there. We appreciate all you guys for tuning in. Obviously, a lot of you guys that are staying through that whole hour. You must have had a long lunch. I'm happy for your work. Hopefully your boss didn't see you just tuning into PTP here too much. But also shout out Pickett for sponsoring the giveaway and stuff. We'll have that info dropped over on Pickett as well for our giveaway, the new giveaway that we're going to be doing here. So, yeah, very fun stuff. Hopefully, how hype would it be to hit a 22-1 touchdown parlay? That would be so sick. But I mean, I think we will. Those are 4 guys that we definitely like to back. And thank all of you guys for tuning in. We appreciate you guys, and hopefully we'll be able to talk Monday about an 8-0 sweep for PTP. So,
are you still doing that DraftKings thing? I tried to join last week from my phone, but for some reason when I tried to join it glitched out on me and didn't bring me to the draft. I wanted to just go because Mono was like, no one can beat me in this, daily fantasy of just me and Justin. That's it. So I was like, oh, I'll make a lineup, and then like it just didn't save, or I don't know, I couldn't find it again. So if you're doing that, let me know. I'll jump in. It's fun. I don't really do DFS because, I mean, various reasons, but when you have 1,000 bets in a week, it's hard to fit in DFS. But I do like to do it occasionally. It's just fun to see how you can do. Because like the thing is, if you're not doing 150 lineups in a lot of these things, that's the heavy DFS guys go. My one lineup is not going to be perfect. I guarantee you that. So, but let me know if you guys end up doing that, because that sounds fun.
Yeah, for sure. We'll let you guys know what's going on here. But hour 15, longest show ever, and I think that we're gonna have a bunch of units profit for you guys. So have a good one. Best of luck on all your bets. And I guess I can't really say go Brewers. So hopefully
go Phillies.
Go Phillies.
Go
Okay,
Paco.
we'll go. Oh yeah, go Phillies. Go whatever. But yeah, it hurts me to not see the Brewers there. But have a good one, guys. We'll talk to you guys soon. We'll talk to you Monday.